Today we are working on a 2013 Audi black finish, and the clear coat is rather stubborn. As you can see here, there are many layers of imperfections to go after here. But we only have the budget to get around the car once. So we want to be smart picking our combination of compounds, pads, and polisher. We're going to use the Refinish Ultra from Tax System, a little bit more aggressive than the Essential one we used the other day. We're going to team it up with some wool pads from Lake Country. Now, what I do have attached to the rotary is the hybrid blue wool pad from Lake Country, and this would be great if this works out and removes imperfections and gives us a decent turnaround here for one trip around the car. Why? Because there's plenty of airflow that goes through the pad. It does generate some heat, but not as much as a microfiber or foam pad. There's plenty of airflow that goes in between the fibers of this hybrid pad, and it just would be fantastic if we can make this work. We're going to see how many passes it takes to remove some of these imperfections. That's why we always want to have a test area so we can sort of fine-tune the method or the plan that we have to set in motion for correcting this vehicle, especially with the budget that we have available. We're going to put the polisher in the third. Sometimes I'll go up to the fourth speed setting with these wool pads. And the pressure, as you can see, I'm not bearing down a ton of weight. I'm just guiding the machine back and forth. In any correction that I do, for me, the main important thing is going to be preservation, along with correcting that paint. I really have switched up the thought process from when I was a lot younger and used to chase a lot of imperfections, pretty much all of them, trying to probably just impress myself more than anybody else, I guess. And it's a mistake. In my older years, I've become more of a friend to the clear coat and just really dealing more with customer expectations than chasing imperfection. I hope that makes sense. But I want to teach you guys that young, and that to you guys that are just getting into this, to have that frame of mind right off the bat, and you'll be successful and profitable, and have a lot less stress on the clear coat, and the customer will also be happy. It's a win-win situation. So, the objective, correcting as much as we can, yet leaving behind as much clear coat and finish as possible. I do want to show you quite a few things here. I'm going to grab the camera and bring you in. And just with two passes, and that's what a crisscross pattern is, up and down, then left or right, two passes. It gets rid of two layers of the imperfection, yet leaves behind some of the deeper scratches you'll see down towards the lid of the trunk. So we have made a huge difference. I believe I could do better with this combination, but we are still going to experiment with a different pad on the other side of the panel. But first I want to show you what yet another pass will do. So we are going to find out the benefits and also the disadvantages of a second pass and spending all that time in one little area, on the test area. It will, yes, get rid of a ton of imperfections. However, there will be a lot of stress with heat, and there will be some swelling. I'm going to show you that with a paint depth gauge. So there's some trade-off, and there's really something you want to think about. Do you really want to chase after those last few scratches? I wouldn't unless the customer really wants you to. That's also where experience comes into play, and if you don't have the experience doing customers' cars, that's where I do advise grabbing those panels from the junkyard or body shop that I mentioned earlier and setting them up and getting experience that way, experimenting. First, burning through, get that over with, then you never have to do it again. And then practicing different levels of correction with different pads and different compounds and polishes. Let me finish removing the residue. I'll grab you guys, bring you in close. We'll take a look and see what a few passes with that hybrid pad. Not quite as aggressive as the low lint pad, but does finish down better. All that's left behind here is some really deep scratches, and we're not going to go that far down. We're not going to do any cutting. But before we go any further, I do want to show you the swell. And this isn't even a microfiber or a foam pad where you get even more heat. Take a look at the depth around the surrounding test area and the depth inside, and you can see the swell. That's what you want to keep away from And that's where I keep telling you guys not to hover over the same area for long periods of time. It's a hell of a lot of stress for the clear coat. So let's experiment with yet another pad. This is the Lake Country Lamb's Wool Low Lint Pre-Washed Pad. Season the pad, get some of the Ultra down on the test panel, and let's get to work. And to get back to heat, being an enemy of that whole area you're working on, the clear coat, the base coat, primer coat, and the panel itself heat up, and they all will expand because they're different materials in different directions, up and down and left and right. And if you're putting too much stress on one area, you're going to have different layers that may want to separate. You may have the clear coat that wants to separate from the base coat if you put too much stress on the area. So if you have areas that have deep imperfections and you are getting paid to go after them, I recommend wet sanding, keeping the temperature down, and then finishing out with a polish, and not a lot of heat will be generated. During some of the training sessions I have, some great questions. But my car sits out in the hot sun in Florida or Nevada, and temperatures reach 150, 140 degrees on the surface temps. But keep in mind, the whole vehicle, the whole panel is heating up and expanding as one, not just in a little test area where the rest of the panel is room temperature at 72 or 80 or whatever it might be. That's where the stress comes into play. So all that can be taken into consideration along with pad choice, the tool, polisher, either a DA or a rotary, and also the compounds and the polish that you choose to team up with the tools and pads. It all comes into play, and you will get that, guys. It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of experience, but you will get it where you can walk up to a car, and you can see here. We made a difference here, but I still would prefer a few passes from the less aggressive blue pad. Just seem to do a better job. And hey, results are going to be different on every car. You may have on a different clear that the low lint pad works better, and it happens that way. Again, you'll get that with experience as well. So I'm going to finish out this trunk with the hybrid blue wool pad, and we'll take a look and see what the results will be. Coming up with a list of the hardness of a clear coat for every make and model is something I started, but it's very difficult and exhausting, and if I ever do finish that list, I will supply it for you. But with experience, you'll be able to walk up to a car, look at the make and model, the year, the type of imperfection, and by the time you grab your estimate sheet and a pen, you'll know exactly what you have to go through to make that correction, depending on the budget that the owner gives you, and you'll have the tools in mind. You'll have the polish and the compound in mind, and the pads, and exactly how long it will take you, and you'll have that all pretty much figured out before you have the estimate written out. That said, even now, I do a couple small test areas on every vehicle, figuring out, as you can see here, this trunk turned out decent. I'm happy with that compared to the damage that was on it and the amount of time that I can spend on it. It's limited. I don't have a week to work on this car. You can see the imperfections left behind. Those are some deep stains, etching, a little bit of some nicks going on. But yeah, do a test area on every car you work on. Figure out the least aggressive method necessary. Let's switch to the DA and a couple pads. I grabbed the 50/50 pad, the Euro pad, a microfiber cutting pad, which I very rarely use nowadays unless it's a multi-step. And you can also use that low lint wool pad from Lake Country on the long throws as well. So I have a test area, yet again masked off on the hood this time, and we'll start off with the Euro pad, the 50/50 pad. This is one I will always test with first. It's one I prefer. It cuts and polishes at the same time. It's very effective and does save a lot of time. The hood here, compared to the trunk, as you can imagine, has a bit more damage, some more imperfections, layers and layers of damage, from rock chips to staining and etching to love marks, and then deeper scratches that go down below that. So my goal is to remove the hard water spots, the love marks, some of the lighter scratches, and the lighter etching. And what will be left behind is the deeper etching, the rock chips, and also some of the deeper scratches. For those of you just starting out in the business, and I do have a lot of you guys that tune into the channel, this is when you get a car that has this many layers of imperfections, that's where you want to have a conversation with the customer that the trade-off for going after absolutely everything is not worth it to the safety of the clear coat. Most of the protection of the clear coat, and I'm talking about UVA, UVB, migrates to the top, near the top, the surface of the clear. As the clear cures and the solvents evaporate, it pushes the particles of protection for UVA, UVB up to the first 15, 25, maybe 30 microns. And going too deep, removing all of that, boy, that's detrimental and really not worth removing all those imperfections. You as the detailer didn't put those imperfections in there, obviously. So there has to be a balance drawn between you removing them and the customer or the owner who may or may not have put them in there. There has to be a balance there to remove as much as possible, yet leaving as much clear coat behind for the years and years that that customer is going to be enjoying his car. Protection afterwards is also key. And how I go about that, if I have to do anything more than a one-step, it's going to be followed up by a ceramic coating. A one-step, I'll follow that up with a polymer sealant, a quality polymer sealant. And when it comes to waxes, we leave those to the classic and antique cars where the customers like to work on them. So I do have a wax or two that I have left behind that I still use for those, but it's very rare. By the way, I do want to show you, you can use the Lake Country Low Lint Pre-Wash Lamb's Wool Pad on a long throw polisher. And we'll show you that on this little test area here. On the test area on the driver's side there, yeah, the 50/50 pad once again is perfectly fine for what we have there. This hood is beat up, it's trashed. But with the low lint pad, some tips, you want to make sure that that pad is placed perfectly or centered perfectly to avoid any type of wobble with your long throw polisher. A 21 millimeter is great. 15 millimeter, it will work. Anything lower than a 15 millimeter, you're really not doing too much. So take a look at my hands here, and the polisher has a little bit of a wobble. I purposely left it off center a little bit, and if you have it perfectly centered and you have the right speed, which may be a little bit higher than the third or the fourth speed setting, which I prefer, you're going to get a nice smooth ride and a really kind of an effective cut coming from your long throw polisher with the Lake Country Wool Pad. It's nice to use the wool pads when you can. Temperature, and I've showed that in past videos, temperature is lower by sometimes 20 degrees using a wool pad over a microfiber pad. Doesn't matter if it's a cutting pad or the 50/50. That Euro pad, the 50/50 pad that I love so much, really does introduce a bit more heat than a wool pad. So if you can get comfortable with a rotary where you can team it up with a wool pad, with the surface of that paint, and both that polisher and yourself will be very happy. Baby steps, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're just getting used to the rotary just to cut, that's absolutely fine. Then switch over to a DA to finish. No big deal. But you'll find when there's a couple of you guys that I talk to on a regular basis that you can absolutely finish just as good or better with a rotary polisher than you can with a DA. So I'll bring you guys and bring you in close, and you'll see that it does work. It is effective, but not quite as effective as the Europad, the Eurofiber 50/50 pad on the other side. All right, the procedure is done. We're finished. We can walk around the car. We can take a deep breath, relax, enjoy the work. We put our heart into it, and if you're not putting your heart into it, then do yourself a favor and pick a different career. Heart a lot of ingenuity, a little bit of creativity and imagination gets you a long way, especially when you need to remove imperfections on such a thin layer as clear coat. And yeah, heart will get you very far in this business. Swirls, love marks, overall just dullness gone, replaced by clarity, high reflection, and a surface to enjoy. But the very important aspect, very little clear was removed. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. Brian from Apex Detail. Catch you in the next video.